Hey, it's Patrick and Kyle, and today we're ranking the Dio albums.
Yep, all 10 full-length studio albums by Dio, ranked from worst to best. I guess the thing with Dio lists is that most of the fan base seems to have a pretty similar opinion on how these albums stack up. Are we going to agree with them? Are we going to have our own twist on it?
No.
I guess you have to wait and find out. So, Ronnie James Dio, one of the best heavy metal singers of all time, maybe the best. He's done a lot in his career, and we're going to get right to it. So what is our number 10?
It's probably a lot of people's last place. Number 10, Angry Machines.
Yep, 1996, Angry Machines. Is it a bad album? No, but it's too 90s, too chunky. The lyrics aren't very good for a Dio album. Dio's singing has no moments that really blow me away. It's just not great. I remember this album came out a couple years after I got into heavy metal music, and just as a 13-year-old saying like, who listens to Dio now? And in hindsight, I guess not too many people were listening to Dio during this era. But I remember when it came out, and it was always kind of regarded as a very average album. The best song on here is probably the closer, This Is Your Life, more of a ballad than anything.
Yep.
But the best song on here, we went to see that movie Dreamers Never Die, the Dio documentary that was put out a year or so ago. And we saw it at the movie theater. And yeah, they played that song during it.
And so they basically played that song when I died, and like a lot of people were sad, including me.
Yeah, I remember I looked over at Patrick when they were playing This Is Your Life, and just looked at me with eyes full of tears, and it was really sweet, and very sad that Ronnie passed away. The other thing we remember going to that movie is some guy in the theater, probably 60 years old, and he was just so drunk. He did not stop talking and swearing through the whole thing, and when he had to go use the washroom, he could not even find his way out of the theater. It was crazy. But what are you going to do? Number 9.
Number 9 is Strange Highways.
1994. There are days where I felt like I like Angry Machines better than Strange Highways, but Strange Highways has a fairly strong ending. I like the last 3 songs, especially the closer, Bring Down the Rain. That's my favorite song on here. Give Her the Gun's kind of goofy. And my biggest problem with this album has always been the opener, Jesus, Mary, and the Holy Ghost. I don't like that song whatsoever. And when the the vocals first come in, it's really cringe. And I think a really bad opening song has kind of soured me on the album.
Yep.
But take away the first song, it's not bad. But like Angry Machines, it feels way too 90s, which isn't what I'm looking for in a Dio album.
Yep. So,
Number 8
is Magica.
Yep, 2000 was regarded as a return to form after the 2 albums we just talked about. Patrick, you have a particular favorite song here, don't you?
Yep. Feed My Head.
Feed My Head, okay.
I always thought it was like a little bit more epic than some Dio songs. So
My favorite song on here was As Long as It's Not About Love. The biggest problem with this album is that there's like a couple interludes, a couple reprises. I think even on the Spotify version of this, there's like this 20-minute song where Ronnie is just narrating the story of Magica. I just don't think there's anything standout on here.
Yeah, we also got a cool case of it. We have 2 more like this, and
yeah, the last 3 Dio albums are these cool digibooks with a bonus disc of live material on them.
Yep. So number 7, Lock Up the Wolves.
Yep. 1990, Lock Up the Wolves. If you would have asked me before we sat down and wrote our list out, I would have ranked this a bit higher. But upon recent listening, I have to say that this album is consistently decent. Not a lot of highs or lows. I think Between Two Hearts and Evil on Queen Street are the 2 weaker songs on here. The best songs are Hey Angel, which is probably a top 5 Dio song for me personally. Why Are They Watching Me is pretty good. And the closer, My Eyes. Actually, the opener Wild One's a good one too. It just never really did a ton for me.
I kind of like the title track. and Night Music's pretty good, and Lock Up Wolves, like those.
Nice. Okay, number 6.
Master of the Moon, the most recent album.
That's another one that I thought we would have put up a little higher.
And has a pretty good cover, same book fold as Magica.
Best songs on here, definitely the first 3, One More for the Road, Master of the Moon, The End of the World, and I also like Living the Lie. I find Shivers is probably the weakest song on here.
Yep, and my top 3 on this album. Number 3, The End of the World. Number 2, One More for the Road. And number 1, Master of the Moon for this album.
So a very good album, but a couple skips.
Number 5 is Killing the Dragon, the last song that Texture like this.
2002. This album is extremely consistent. No bad songs, although Throwaway Children and Rock and Roll aren't great. Best ones are definitely Push and Scream.
Yep, I like Push.
And yeah, remember that video for Push that's got a Tenacious D in it?
Yep.
Forgot about that. But yeah, Killing the Dragon. This was one of the last Dio albums I ever heard. And again, one of the stronger late ones. The strongest late one. So number 4.
Yep, top 4, they're in a pretty similar order. Number 4, Dream Evil.
1987. Starts off great with Night People. But I think the 2 best songs are Sunset Superman. I love that speedy riff that comes in there. And All the Fools Sailed Away. There's a couple average songs on here, I think. When a Woman Cries, Faces in the Window, and Overlove.
Yep, time for my top 3 on this album. Number 3, Dream Evil. Number 2 is All the Fools Sail Away.
Yep.
And number 1's album is, to me, Sunset Superman.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
I remember when I was 3, and when I listened to that song, when I was like 4 or 5, I listened to that song, I only liked it because it said Superman in the song.
Yeah, how times change. I think I could say, hey, Patrick, I know you're not into superheroes, but I mean, just want to go to the movies, want to see a superhero movie? You'll probably say, no, I'd rather stay home.
Yeah.
But, what's our number 3? Sacred Heart. I think this is a underrated album that I think a lot of fans put a couple notches lower on their list. But it starts off strong. King of Rock and Roll, Sacred Heart, one of the best Dio songs ever. Rock and Roll Children's great. Hungry for Heaven is corny, but I like it. Like The Beat of a Heart, I love that one, although it's really similar to Straight Through the Heart on Last in Line. I guess it ends on a bit of a weak note with Fallen Angels and Shoot Shoot.
And time for my top 3. Number 2 on this album is Secret Heart. Number 2, King of Rock and Roll. And number 1, just in my opinion, is Rock and Roll Children.
Nice. Okay, so I guess you have to figure what our top 2 are. You've always been a Last in Line guy. I've always been a Holy Diver guy. But what did we agree upon? Our number 2.
Number 2, Last in Line. There's so many good songs in here. We Rock, Last in Line, Breathless, Ice Be a Night, One Night in the City, Evil Eyes, and Mystery. Pretty much all good.
Yeah, you know what? Eat Your Heart Out is the worst song on here. The best ones are the title track and Egypt. Evil Eyes isn't great, but it's got a good solo. Breathless, that's one of the deep cuts that grows on me with every year. So again, a couple songs aren't perfect, but how do you not give this metal classic a 10 out of 10?
Yeah, like, come on. Last in Line is...
We Rock.
Yep.
I Speed at Night, like you don't love it, but again, we're nitpicking.
Yep. Last in Line is in my top 3 Dio songs.
Yeah, that's one of the first heavy metal songs you really took to when you were young.
But the one before that is Holy Diver.
Yep, our number 1.
And speaking of Holy Diver, our number 1 is Holy Diver.
So Holy Diver, that's got to be a top 10 metal album of all time here. Let's just go track for track on it. Stand Up and Shout.
Amazing.
Amazing. Holy Diver, one of the best songs ever.
Yep.
Gypsy.
Pretty good.
You know what? As much as it's a weaker song on here, like, it still rules. A little bit more of a AC/DC thing going on. Caught in the Middle, that might be my favorite Dio song. I think it's just a very special song, very uplifting song.
That's one of my favorite songs ever, actually, Caught in the Middle.
Yeah, I don't hear people talk about that enough. Don't Talk to Strangers. Now, that song.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that kind of soft intro. And then when Dio just lets out that note and the guitars kick in, I get goosebumps every time. There's just something, I usually don't use this word talking about Dio, but there's just something kind of evil about it. Just make sure hair stand up on end, and then it just, blazes into another metal classic. Straight Through the Heart, unreal. Okay, so Invisible, Shame on the Night. I'm going to put those 2 at the bottom of the list, but they still rule. And Rainbow in the Dark.
Everybody knows that song? Amazing.
I'm actually right now listening to the audiobook of Rainbow in the Dark, Dio's autobiography that I started before he died, but it really, I'm about halfway through it, and I believe the book, I think it might end around the time The Last in Line comes out. I'm not sure, but I'll get to that when I get to it. Dio rules, and thanks for joining us. See ya.
See ya.